This is Suzanne.
This is Roxie.
This is Susan.
And this is Lauri. Today, we're going to talk about besties, best friends, people that you couldn't live without. They were the persons you called first. They were people that you confided in. And some of them are still your besties. And some of them are just fond memories of besties because life is different. It goes on. People move, people stay, whatever. And we still can all share a good story about a bestie. Susan has some information that I think we could start off with.
Well, when you talk about besties, you tend to think, oh, that one best friend. But actually, the average person supposedly has 3 to 5 best friends at any time. In fact, there's something called the 5 rule. And that means that there's a guy, an anthropologist named Robin Dunbar, and he did a lot of studying on this, and he decided that there is only a certain number of people that you can have in your social group at all, and that's 150 people in your social group. But of those, they're layered by closeness. And according to Robin Dunbar, the anthropologist, only 5 can be in the most meaningful layer of friendship at one given time. But you can have up to 5. It doesn't have to just be 1. In fact, it's usually about 3 to 5. Then in the second layer, you can have about 10 that are close, but not the ultimate closest. And then there's a third layer where you have like 35. And then there's a last layer who are just acquaintances. And that's 100 people would be in that layer. And when you add it all together, it's 150 people. And according to him, the bigger the brain of a creature, the larger the size of their social group is. And that decides, the size of your brain decides how many you can have in that realm at one time.
I don't think I know 150 people.
I don't you don't the thing is that the last 100 people do not have to be close to you in any way. They're just part of your social group, that you might have on Facebook that you knew long ago, and you still occasionally see that they had a grandchild or something.
People that you recognize in the theater lobby because you
That's right, but you turn away so you don't have to have a conversation with them.
Because you can't really remember their name.
That's right.
You're like, I know him, I know her.
Well, I go through my contacts occasionally when I want to send out, sort of like announcements about things. And there's so many in my contact list that I go, who is that? Somehow they got in my contact list, but I have no idea who they are. But anyway, getting back to the idea of besties, you don't have to have just one. You can have about 3 to 5 is the average.
Could you have one at a time? Maybe that, I don't think, I kind of think when I was a kid in grammar school, that shows how old I am. I had several kids that were like that. That describes it perfectly. And sometimes you'd call one more often than others, like call them on the phone, or go and hang out with them after school. And they were like the best of the besties. But you could have a whole bunch of other ones that like the 5. You could have others that you wanted to include all the time too. Like your mom will say, well, we're not going to have a big birthday party for you. So just come up with your best friends and we'll go and go miniature golfing or Knott's Berry Farm or something. I remember doing that. And so that was the kind of thing.
So did you have a
I
best
had
friend?
a best friend. Her name is Pam, and she had red hair, and she lived easily within walking distance of my house. And she'd come over to my house sometimes. We'd have sleepovers. I'd go over to her house, sleepovers. This lasted many, many years. We were good friends. And then, well, I went to one high school. She went to another. And we kind of fell out. But we never forgot how much we enjoyed our friendship. We were in the same brownie troupe. And we just did so many fun things together. I ran into her in the market one time. It's like 20 years later. Pam, Lauri. And we talked about that for a little while and we said bye, and that was it. But Yeah, somebody that you can think about that you best friends with, and even though you're not in contact anymore, you still can think fondly about that. That's my best friend, Pam.
Well, I personally had trouble ever saying this is my best friend. I am not one of those people that has a million friends. I have only a few friends usually at a time, but to say this is my best friend and that person is my second best friend, that was hard for me to ever do because like you said, Lauri, you have you have different functions. And in fact, there's an advice columnist and a influencer named Alexandra Hayes Robinson who says that you have 6 different kinds of friends and that each one of those kinds of friends fills a different need. Like she says there's a dead body friend, which just means
that would be me.
What?
Which means that when you have a dead body to hide, you can call them.
Okay,
okay.
That would be me.
If you've really messed up, that friend is going to stick by you no matter how bad it was.
They'll help you. They'll bring the shovel.
Yeah. And then you have a good time friend, which is the one that you go out and party with or whatever, because they're the one it's always going to be fun. And then you have like a work buddy that mostly your relationship is in with work. There's seasonal besties, which are the people that they're in sync with the same life happening to them that's happening to you. Like you both had children at the same time, or you're both you're both interested in pickleball at the same time, or something like that. That
That's me. I'm that seasonal friend for you.
That's right. Well, we were very briefly, and then the season of pickleball passed for both of us.
Yes,
and now somebody else has seasonal pickleball friends, but not us. It wouldn't be me anymore. You just fall down on the pickleball court one too many times, and you just don't want to get up again.
I believe I left first, actually.
Yes, I think you did. But anyway, but we were seasonal besties at that time. And then there's your OG besties, the one that are your childhood friends that you've had, for many, many, many years. And then there's your North Star bestie. And that means that your souls are kind of connected. You're almost soulmates, that kind of thing. So those are the 6 different kinds of besties, according to this person, Alexandra Hayes Robinson, who looks like she's about 15 years old. So the wisdom that is imparted by her is amazing.
I was going to say she's very wise.
That's right, very wise.
That sounds about right. I remember having a seasonal bestie. We were Beatle fans together. We loved the Beatles so much. That's all we would do. We'd play their albums. We'd go to each other's house. And, Paul and John and George and Ringo. Oh, we even sent our 5th grade school pictures to them in a fan letter. Oh, we love you so much. And it's like, what were we expecting?
Paul McCartney, if you're listening, Lauri is still waiting for a reply.
Oh, yeah. Well, anyway. But yes, it was a seasonal thing. But after Beatles season, about the time they came out with a White Album, season was over. we were done with that sort of nonsense. But of course, I still love the Beatles. But that's that's not the best friend thing. So,
but maybe that best friend still loves the Beatles too. Maybe perhaps you should try to reconnect. You never know.
Yeah. Well, Suzanne, we have heard nothing from you. Do you have any seasonal person or?
I don't quantify my friends, so I never really look like this is my best friend. I mean, I had people that I hung around with growing up, Marianne for one,
Yeah,
and her sister Louise, Louise and I hung around more together than Marianne and I did. Marianne hung around with my older sister, but
odd.
Yeah, no, I've never really quantified friends. The really strange thing is I was sitting here as you guys were talking about it, and I realized that most of my really close friends are guys. There's Gabe, there's Steve, there's Mike that I used to hang out with, Tom. I almost all of my really, really close friends have been guys.
Well, that's revelatory, isn't it, girls?
Well, the next time you see Gabe, tell him I said hi. I haven't seen him for years.
Oh, I will. I'll see him tonight.
Okay.
Yeah, I see him tonight.
Yeah, he made faces at me when he was backstage, when the cuckoo bird didn't come on.
Not my fault.
I know it wasn't, but
That belongs to the city.
Yeah.
Well, we're not going to talk about the city.
No,
Yes.
we're not.
Oh, can't you hear it? It's so soft. Soft cuckoo. You know, what am I? And while I was
You
saying
need to
that,
tell the story.
They were
because none of
standing
us know
there
what you're
and-
talking about.
Okay.
yeah, well, I was in Blithe Spirit. I played Madame Arcadi, who was breathing in and doing breathing exercises, and she says, "Oh, that's a cuckoo bird,"
Yeah.
and nothing. And
Yeah, I was writing sound, and that's when they had the CD player that never worked. Okay, and I hit the sound cue, and it didn't go. And
Just sat.
go. Lauri's sitting there, and then when she finally finishes and everything, then it plays.
Then it played, and the line, and it's actually the place. Oh, be quiet, you foolish bird! And I thought, well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Come in
Too
at the
late.
wrong time. And I think there was a couple of people in the audience going,
Bravo.
So Gabe was somehow
"Oh,
this mysterious Gabe guy who is best friends with Suzanne, but somehow not a best friend because he's a guy. Is that what you're trying to tell us? That
No.
you're not
No,
allowed
not
to have
really.
best friends as
I'm
guys?
close to him, but I don't. I guess it's just my way of thinking that it's not like this is the best, right?
Yeah.
I'm close to him.
Uh-huh.
I'm also close to Steve Sandborn. Steve and I are very much. I think we were twins in another life
Mm.
because we think so much alike. But it's not like it's like this. This is the best,
Mhm.
you know, because
Mhm.
anything that I do, I could call Steve if I need help with something. I could call Gabe. It doesn't matter. I know they would help me.
Well, I think sometimes best friends are best friends because you're comfortable with them. You can be yourself and you don't have to put on a show or watch your manners. You can say what you're thinking and, and there's no judgment or at least no lingering resentments.
And even if there are, you forgive them for it.
They forgive you right away. So it's, I think that's one of the qualities of a best friend, really. So,
Yeah. I have a best friend from school. He's from teaching, and I talked to him yesterday. We call each other every month, and just catch up. He's a definite good friend, maybe a best friend in my circle of five, maybe.
That's
Your-
right.
Your quantification.
It doesn't never stay the same all the time.
But I never. When you get older, you have friends, and
Yeah.
so
Well, being somebody's bestie, it's kind of, here's what I would come up against. I'm sorry to say, is that I would consider somebody my bestie, but they wouldn't consider me their bestie.
oh,
That was a sad situation.
that's awkward. Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Susan.
and then they'd talk about it, and then they would name who their bestie was right in front of me. That was really sad because
That's
I
just
always thought
rude.
they
I'm
were
sorry.
well, they weren't even aware that
Mhm.
I thought they were my bestie. And so, they just talk about their best friend, so and so. And it was a sad, sad situation for me.
No.
See, there you go. That's why.
Yeah. yeah.
because when you
That's
when
why.
you when you quantify, you can run into some trouble.
Well, that's when I stopped saying who's my best friend. This is just a good friend, but I don't have best friends because I might not be their best friend.
That's
Well-
just, you can be my best friend, Susan.
Thank you. You can be my best friend
Okay.
too.
All right. So
Oh,
now I
now-
have a quantified.
Wait a minute.
Lauri and
Roxie
I
and
are-
Lauri will be best friends.
Okay,
Okay,
you're all my best friends because I can have 3 to 5 of
Yeah.
them. So.
Yeah, I was going to say that.
Who else would I choose?
I don't know. Listen, 3 is terrible.
Because
Because if you have 3, you and 2 others are good friends of yours, they may not be as good of friends to each other, and then things happen. 3 bad.
Oh, it doesn't have
There's
to
always
be
2
like
people
a
that
clot.
do something, and the other one's like, "Well, what am I going to do?"
It's
and
not
I've-
like
Oh
that.
no.
It's like you have a circle of
Circle
people
of
that you
friends.
consider your best friends, and they may not even know each other. I mean, if I were to quantify my 4 or 5 best friends, it would be the girl I grew up with, who moved away to Michigan. It would be the girl that lived next door until we all moved away. And I'm not going to go any further than that, but it would be like that. So it wouldn't necessarily be
Well,
people who know each other.
what I meant though is if three people are together,
That's always dangerous.
that can run into trouble.
What usually happens is you have four, right? Three of your friends, and they all get together and like each other and leave you.
That could happen. That's bad. Yeah, that's really bad.
It's like, wait, how come you guys are going to the show without me?
Who picked this topic anyway?
You know what? Here's some more research that you could hit.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, everybody's all, yay,
That's right.
research.
That's right.
I like research.
Stop getting on the personal things. We make approximately 29 real friends in our lifetime, but only 6 of those average last the distance of, over a long period of time. We lose touch with 50% of the friends that we make, and the average friendship lasts about 17 years. So there you go. Romantic relationships, in opposition to that, only last about 10 years on average. So
or a fast 5 seconds.
Right. It all depends. Well, that's an average. And then there's the 50-year ones,
that's true,
that average out with the 2-week ones. Anyway, so a friendship then is supposedly is something that you can count on more than you can count on a romance.
I would
I
totally go
kind of
that.
I get to agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, friendships last a long time compared to some of these romances that I.
Well, and if you have a dog, even longer.
Yeah.
It's like-
Well, that's interesting, because did you know that 62% of American pet owners consider their pets as their best friends?
Oh, God, not my dog.
well,
Not my dog.
Oh, she's showing us bite marks right there.
Bite.
On her.
A hole in my finger.
once you heal, you'll forget all about it. He'll be.
Oh,
your
I
best
forgot
friend.
about it last night when I went home.
But yeah.
Oh, come here. How are you?
That's right. And then he bit you again, right?
Yeah.
It's mostly dog owners, apparently, that think that their pets are their best friends. But I mean, you
Yeah.
do know, I find solace and friendship with my dogs. I'm not sure that they reciprocate, but I do. What about Shotzi?
No, I think I think that dogs just in general, for the most part, if you have a dog that it's your pet and you love them, they're usually so forgiving. They are like the unconditional love definition. If you looked it up in the dictionary, there would be a dog sitting there. So of course, they're your best friend because they never give you grief. Once in a while they nip. And stuff like that. But they're there for you and they're so glad to see you. They never give you attitude. It's like, yeah.
But you're not talking about cats.
No, cats give you nothing but attitude.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Right.
It's like,
We are here to serve the cat.
yeah.
But a nice cat curled up on your lap
Yeah,
is pretty comforting. I
It can
think.
be comforting, but when you come home, a dog is like, "Oh my God, you're home! I'm so happy to see you. I thought you'd never come back." And a cat will look at you like, "Where the hell have you been?
Why haven't you fed me?
I had needs,
I'm hungry.
Yeah. So I just like dogs better.
Even though it's kind of embarrassing, I do love the fact that my dog howls the minute I leave. Arr,
Yeah,
arr, don't go, come back.
I've heard that on my Ring camera, outside of my house, and I can hear the recording of the dogs howling when they're all alone in the house.
Oh God.
I had a dog like that too. Well, our family had a dog that if we left the dog, then it would howl the whole time. And the neighbors informed us of that. You only know when you're gone because the dog is standing in the backyard just going, oh. And one day I got home, a car drove up and dropped me off. So it didn't hear the car come in the driveway. So it didn't know that anyone was home. And I just came in and I heard the dog howling in the backyard. And I went, he doesn't know I'm here. And I thought, oh my God, our neighbors are correct. This dog howls the whole time. So I went out the door and dog just hey, come running up. So we used to try to take our dog wherever we could go because it goes, can we bring the dog, please? Because
if you
otherwise,
probably every burglar in the neighborhood would say, "Oh,
they're
dog's
not
out. They
here.
must not be home." And the dog's in the backyard.
Yeah, he's in the backyard.
Let's go see what they got.
I have to say that if I was going to try to identify my closest friends, that would have to include most of my family members. Well, I would have to say all of my family members. I'm not excluding anybody. But my family and my husband, when he was around, have always been my best friends and the people that I can turn to, the people that I love to talk to, the people that, when we get together, we always have something fun to do or say with each other. And it's something that maybe then that has restricted the fact that I didn't have as many friends outside because I had, this insular, I had this insular social group already that was just made up of me and my siblings and my parents and everybody in my family.
My sister and I we're still very close. And there was a while recently where she was crabby all the time. And I can say that because she never listens to our shows.
How rude.
Oh, I know. Well, I can, Anyway, but she needed a knee replacement surgery. And she just got it over it. She's getting better. And she calls me up all the time. Hey, kiddo, da, da, da. And I go, who's this? And I've noticed that she's extremely happy. And I think maybe she was having some pain or something and was always thinking, oh, geez, I have to talk to my sister now. Because we used to be really super close. And they don't live all that close to me, but close enough that I could visit. But I don't see her all that often. But maybe I'll start going around and see her again because we're back to the old days, the old fun days.
Well, I think that's one of also a definition of a long time, an OG bestie, according to Alexandra Hayes Robinson, is that I have one longtime friend, Kathy Jablonski, and when we don't see each other hardly ever, maybe once a year at the most, but every time we get together, we just start talking, and it's like we've just, we haven't been apart at all.
Mm-hmm.
And, we might catch up on things that have been happening or something, but it's an easy conversation. There's, the silences are not uncomfortable, all of that kind of thing. And it just comes from just having had that long relationship for all of these years. I think I first met her when I was about maybe 10 years old, maybe younger than that even, because our fathers worked together, taught at the same school together, and we all lived in Whittier together. So, we all got together and took family vacations together and all of that. Anyway, it's just amazing to me that even though our lives have gone separate ways and we never see each other, we don't talk on the phone, we really don't communicate by social media, but every time we get together, it's just like bam, 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 it's right back together again.
I have a friend like that too. I knew her in college, and we, did a lot of things together. And she moved up to Washington. Now she lives in New Mexico in this beautiful house. And the same thing with her. We'll talk on the phone, or I'll see her if she comes out to California, and it's just the same thing. All the catchphrases that you shared, they're still there, and we're just laughing like we had just talked to each other the day before.
Yeah.
And that's really neat to have a friend like that too.
Yeah. The Michigan friend of mine is like that. We talk on the phone more than anything else, but I've gone to her place a couple of times, and it's, how when you go to somebody else's house and you're staying someplace and you're like, never. It's just like I roll in and put your bag in the blue room, and we just pick up where we left off. And It always feels so good. It does. And then the two girls that grew up next door, they grew up practically at our house because my mother babysat the younger one for a long, long time. They're the same way. You just see them and they walk in and there they are, and it's like you could have talked to them yesterday. And that's the long-term relationship.
Yeah, that's the OG.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
Mary Ann, because whenever I do talk to her, I don't talk to her that much. In fact, I haven't talked to her probably in 2 years now. I'm not sure what's going on, but
Yeah. Wow.
it's the same thing. When we
Mhm.
start talking, it's just like, I just saw her yesterday,
Hmm.
and same things. If I go up and see her because she lives in Auburn, it's the same thing.
Isn't that neat?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, because I have some other friends too. My friend Louise that I knew from high school, and she wound up being my boss. Isn't that funny? And
How'd that work
yeah, she was
out?
a principal at a school, and I called her up and I said, "Oh, I've decided to become a pampered chef dealer." And she says, "Why are you a pampered chef dealer?" And I said, "Well, because I need some money, and I'm between jobs." And she says, "Oh, really?" And this was during the whole thing about 20 to 1 in the classrooms and stuff.
Yeah.
She says, I am a principal. And I said, yeah, I did know that. And she said, well, have you ever thought about teaching? And I said, yeah, I think it would be fun. She said, well, go take the CBEST test and come back and talk to me. And I got hired on an emergency credential because they needed teachers desperately. And then it gave me a chance to, get my credential and then do 20 years of teaching. It was fun.
And when you were on an emergency credential, how long did it take you to get off of an emergency credential? Because I was teaching on an emergency credential for like 7 years or so.
5 years for me. Yeah, it took me 5 years to
Is
get
there,
it.
Well,
is
because-
there a different pay or no benefits or?
Well, they kind of fire you at the end of the year.
Yeah, every year.
and then
get a pay slip.
they bring you back if they like you.
Yeah, I was a temporary employee at Rio Hondo for 8 years. 8 years. How was that temporary?
Yeah,
And all that
sounds too
time, I was
temporary.
not collecting anything for retirement. I had no benefits.
Mhm.
I had nothing.
Wow.
Well, the thing about the emergency credential was that you were teaching in the classroom and they just threw you into the classroom
That's what
without
they did.
any training, without anything. They told you, here's the books that you have to teach, go teach. Fortunately, I feel that I did a pretty good job of doing that because it really mattered to me, but I'm not sure that everybody on emergency credentials were doing that. But then you had to take a certain number of classes, like it was only 1 or 2 or something, in order to keep that emergency credential going. But then you had a whole series of classes that you had to take. And it took me, because I was also raising my kids at the same time and, all kinds of things. So it took me 7 years. I think it was 7 to get my emergency credential eventually.
Yeah, that was. I had never. The only thing that was open at the school where my friend was the principal. It was fifth. It wasn't fifth grade. They had just filled that, and I thought, oh, that would be good. Fifth grade. I like fifth grade. It was kindergarten. Okay, I never went to kindergarten. I never got married and had kids, so I didn't send the kids to kindergarten. I had no clue about kindergarten.
You never went to kindergarten?
Huh?
How come you never went to kindergarten?
Because come on, when we were the age of kindergarten, it wasn't yet a state law that you had to send a kid to kindergarten.
Well, I went to Laurel School.
Huh?
I went to kindergarten. I went to Laurel School.
Well, you could go,
Oh.
but my mother said, well, my sister had a situation where she was at kindergarten. We were renting because our house wasn't done yet, but the other house got sold, and so we were renting. And she made some friends over at kindergarten, and then all of a sudden, boom, I'm gone. And so, she had to say goodbye to these friends that she had at kindergarten. And so my mother said, oh, forget kindergarten. Just start at St. Mary's, which didn't have a kindergarten. So
one of my favorite stories was as a kindergarten story. So my mom used to walk me to school.
yes, yeah.
Well, this one morning we were late because she had to get my brother, who was still in the stroller and everything, put in the stroller and stuff. And so we were late getting there, and she didn't walk me all the way to the door. She walked me to the end of the school and said, go to class, and turned around and went home. Well, I walked to the door and I looked at the doorknob, and in my head, everybody in the room was going to stare at me when I walked in there. And I just couldn't I had my hand I just couldn't even put it on the doorknob. So I turned around and walked home.
Oh, no.
When I got home, my mom said, what are you doing here? And I said, there's no school today. She walloped me and took me back and
Back to
opened the
school.
door and pushed me in.
Crying. Oh,
yeah.
Face all red.
Well, that's logic. That's kindergarten logic. You know, you don't want to be embarrassed, so that would be the worst thing in the world. So I'm just going to go home.
I'm 5 years old. Why would I want people staring at me? Now I crave it.
If only they would.
That's right. Now they look away.
Yeah, they're like, ah! Okay, well, we're actually at time.
Oh, wow.
wow.
Well, it ended on a big laugh.
Okay.
So join us again next time when we'll be talking about some other weird thing.
And get way off track as usual.
We'll
Which is
digress.
okay.
And until then, this is Suzanne.
This is Lauri.
This is Susan.
This is Roxie.
And we are 3 old broads and a lady.